Welcome to the Expo show. I'm your host, Gregory Meriweather. Today we have a special guest in the building, and that guest is Senator Greg Taylor. He's here today to talk about expungement. I know that this has been a very sensitive topic in the African American community, and I wanted to bring him on because I believe that he is a man who can definitely tell us all the ins and outs about expungement. So if you've been through something, if you may need your record expunged, I think this is a great show for you to watch. So how are you today, Senator Taylor?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show again, Greg. I appreciate coming on here and being able to speak to the people that I represent in the community.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you back, man, because I know that this has been something that you worked on some time ago. But I think that when I think about expungement, I know that there are a lot of things that people don't know about. There are a lot of people who may call me and say, hey, Greg, do you know anything about this? And so it was a topic that I really, really wanted to get out to the people, because I think that by doing this, we're able to impact some people possibly immediately if they qualify in certain regards. So man, I want you to briefly just talk about when this bill came to be and you were working on it.
So I have to give a lot of credit to the late Bill Crawford for actually helping me come up with this idea and concept. When I first started in Indiana General Assembly, Indiana was the worst state in the country in regards to expungement. In other words, there are a lot of states that had expungements and sealing of records, but we had nothing. As a matter of fact, you could get arrested in Indiana and it would be on your record for the rest of your life. You could get arrested, be charged, found not guilty. It was still on your record. So what it really came down to for me was, how can we protect those people who had either been wrongfully charged, or protect those people who not only have been wrongfully charged, but also had suffered some detriment due to the fact that we as a state didn't get rid of the records that should have been gotten rid of. I mean, let's be real about it. If I get arrested, I'm innocent until proven guilty.
Correct.
So what happens when I'm innocent and they don't file the charges? So we started with that. And we first did sealing of the records, and it was low-level felonies. It was things like non-victimless crimes, as we called them.
Sure.
And then something happened, and I always say the Lord is good. A Southern Indiana Republican called me one summer and said, hey man, I saw your concealment bill. Would you mind if we work together and I try to get expungement? Now, I had already tried expungement, so I knew that the limitations that I had were going to be based on just sealing the records. How we got getting rid of it, expunging it? He came through. He shepherded through the House of Representatives. I was the author of the bill in the Senate. We got it through, and it was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we just did this. Well, then we started seeing people pouring in. As a matter of fact, there were so many petitions in Marion County. They have one particular attorney that handles nothing but expungements. Over the last 5 years, we've seen over 8,000 petitions. 8,000 petitions in Marion County alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is I had a young lady come up to me. She was a mail paper carrier, and she had gone and got her RN license. Mm-hmm. And because she had done something when she was in college that she should have never done, she couldn't get her RN license. Mm-hmm. And this allowed her to she was crying. I mean, I never met this lady before, and I was like, wow, I can't believe, and that's what I knew as a public policy maker, that we can really change people's lives. So that's where it started. And here we are today, where we have a full-fledged, everything from stealing a candy bar in the store all the way up to murder. Mm-hmm. All the way up to murder. Depending on the circumstance, you can have it expunged.
Amazing. So let's start right here. One of the things that I looked at immediately, and it kind of hit me hard because I was just blown away by this. I was almost mortified by this. But this one says expunging arrest records. And the reason this stuck out to me was because I personally did not think about people who were arrested having a record if they weren't convicted. Oh, yeah. And so I was like, so there's actually a record that could possibly or potentially hold you back just based on arrest. Can you explain more about that?
Absolutely. So if you were to go and look up your criminal background history in the past, if you were arrested there's a section in that charge. It says arrested. It gives the charge, and then there's a part called disposition, and it says NG D, which is dismissed. NG being not guilty. Filed charges not filed. All those things would still be on there. So imagine this: you've gone through a job interview, and the application says, "Have you ever been convicted of a crime?" No, I have not. But that comes up on your record. And the person who's reviewing your application doesn't take the time to look and see what the disposition of the case is. Mm-hmm. All they see is that you were charged on this day for this crime. That happened probably a lot more than what we think. Oh. So it wasn't convictions only that were getting people kicked out of jobs and things like that. It was actually arrests.
Thinking about that, I'm a little, it blows me away because I think about the African American community. And I think about how many young men and women have just been arrested. And it feeds in, it makes me think about the stigma of saying, well, they just want to get you in the system. When you think of it from that perspective, how important do you think it is for us to now go and research this thing?
It's tremendously important. Let me talk about why it's important. A lot of people go to court for the first time and the prosecutor says to them, listen, this is your first time. I'm charging you with the felony, but I tell you what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you a deferred sentence. And I'm going to say to you, if you leave here and you go on probation for a year, non-reporting, and you complete that, we'll move this to a misdemeanor, right? Mm-hmm. So now when you go again, we're going back to that scenario, you fill out the job application. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? No, I have not. Guess what it reads on your criminal background? It says, this is what he was charged with, and if you're not savvy enough, you don't even see it. The charge still says D felony, mm-hmm. But down in the disposition, or next case, it says converted misdemeanor. And then that was the disposition. So if you don't go past the charge,
right,
you think I got a misdemeanor, I don't have to lie.
Right.
It's still on your record.
Still on your record.
So this law addresses that. It addresses the situation where you've been arrested and not been convicted. It addresses when you've been convicted of a D felony and you completed your term. It goes all. Now we have level felony. So mm-hmm. I want to emphasize to your audience that we may be speaking in terms of D felony and they may hear level felonies. Always consult an attorney when you look at this, okay? Because here's the deal. You get one shot. Mm-hmm. If you don't get that the first time and you get denied, you can't petition again.
This is very interesting. So I want you to stay tuned and stick with us because we're going to continue talking about expungement. You're watching the Expo show.
Hi, I'm Robert Mathis. I spent 14 years playing for your Indianapolis Colts. During that time, I noticed a lot of violence in what has become my city as well. Our most precious resource is being lost at a rapid rate. That resource is our future, better known as our children. I'm here to tell you that I love you. I love the city. I'm Indy, Indy is me. Please stop the violence. I'm Robert Mathis, and I am your brother.
And welcome back to the Expo show. I'm your host, Gregory Meriweather. We're here with Senator Greg Taylor. We are discussing the expungement. And he's already blowing my mind because I'm sitting here thinking about the arrests, and I'm just thinking that, man, a lot of people honestly probably do not know about this, Senator, because, just during the break, I was like, people are probably thinking, why am I not getting these jobs? And 9 times out of 10, it's like they have no idea that just your arrests are on there. Mm-hmm. And another piece of that, it's almost like this is like a credit report.
Yep.
When you look at it and you say, okay, I paid that off, but it's still showing, it may show your delinquencies or things of that nature.
There you go.
So I just want you to really just let them know, especially from the arrest perspective. What's the process of moving forward to get that removed?
Okay, so if you are arrested, you have to wait 365 days, all right? On that 365th day, you petition the court to have that arrest record removed from your criminal background.
Okay.
Here's the big win. The court shall grant that petition.
Okay.
There's no criteria. As long as it's your arrest record, you're arrested, not convicted. The court has to expunge your record.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, the only people that get access to that, remember, so if anybody were to do a background check on you, it will come back, no arrests, no charges, no convictions. The only people that can access that is someone who is in law enforcement in their pursuit of their law enforcement duties.
Okay.
Not just somebody going looking on the
Right,
system,
right.
but again, it has to be somebody that is law enforcement in pursuit of their law enforcement duties.
Why do you think this was never really put into play? Because if I am in court and you're telling me, okay, this is getting dropped, or this is getting, taken down to a misdemeanor, why isn't that information given to me to say, okay, this still may appear on your record, so these are the necessary steps to move forward? Because isn't the law not only, isn't there a protection piece of the law as well?
I think it seriously violated the due process rights that we all have here as citizens. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I'm not someone that could file a lawsuit because I've never been arrested. But for those people who have been arrested, I think it is a violation of your due process rights for you to actually be penalized for being arrested. And remember, this is not about a conviction.
Right.
I keep reiterating that. You're innocent until proven guilty. The good thing about this is that with those types of expungements, you can then answer on your job application, no.
Yeah.
And here we go. So when we went through this law, I think that your audience should know this. We did a lot of things. Okay, we talked about D felonies or level 6 felonies that have been moved to misdemeanors. All right. As long as the person has a D felony or a level 6 felony, as we talked about here, and not earlier than 5 years at the date of conviction. So here we go. Let's say you get a D felony or a level 6 felony, and you spend a year in jail. That year counts. Because it's from the date of conviction.
Okay.
So you got 4 more years, let's say, if you spend a year behind the bars and everything, and you petition the court for that, the court has to, again, the circuit court or superior court has to expunge your record. Now, for any level 5 felony or higher, or class C under the old system, the court has discretion.
Okay.
But here's the key. The court, by a preponderance of the evidence, has to prove that you are a risk and that expungement would not benefit you.
Okay.
So they still have a high burden to overcome, all right? So you go in and you've got a level 5 felony that has to do with drug dealing, and you say to the judge, listen, Judge, I've got this opportunity. I've gone and got my education, but when I was young, I did something very stupid, and I need this expunged in order to get my license. If that judge denies that petition, you got a strong case, a very strong case. And the thing that we wanted to do is to make sure that although we believe in judicial discretion, because it works, but we also wanted to make sure that they had to prove something too. And so we've got that, and if you read the statute, if anybody watching at home, the statute starts, and let me give it to you because I say memorize it, read it like you would read a book.
Sure.
Indiana Code 35-38-9-1 in what we in legal terms we call et sec, which is it starts at 1 and goes all the way through to section 11. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
So when you read that, it talks about, for example, here on a job application. This is one that I thought was very creative by the author, and I admittedly I did this, but deep in the bill under section 10 it says in any application for employment, a license or otherwise privilege, a person may be questioned about previous criminal record only in the term that exclude expunged convictions or arrests, such as, and we put this language just here in purpose. This is what every job application in Indiana should be saying now. Have you ever been arrested for or convicted of a crime that has not been expunged by a court? That question that used to be on there, have you been convicted or arrested of a crime?
Right.
Should not be on any job applications.
Interesting.
I'm just telling you. I ain't telling you what to do, but I'm just telling you, as of 2014, that shouldn't be on the application.
Okay.
And then we got these little companies that would come to us and say, well, if we hire somebody that we know that has that expunged record, it subjects us to liability. So what did we do? We came back and I said, I'm gonna change the law for you. Okay. So no longer can a court or a person use that expunged person's record against an employer and for employment purposes. Yes. So now they don't even have any excuses.
Right.
So if somebody says, well, we got liability, no. They changed the law to say you don't anymore.
You know, and that's one of the things that concerns me is just the individual discretion. Mm-hmm. That thing where people can come back and try to utilize it against you. And basically, if you don't know this, let's just say, because I don't believe a lot of people do, but I'm sure that language that you've used against that person who has had a criminal history, I'm sure people are saying those things to them as we speak.
And here's the language. I will read it verbatim for you. It's in section 10 of the statute, and it says a conviction that has been expunged under this chapter is not admissible as evidence in an action for negligent hiring, admission, or licensure against a person or entity who relied on that order. So even if you get a license, mm-hmm. and the person who gave you that license relied on your expunged record, they cannot be sued.
There you have it. Senator Taylor is here letting us know. I believe this is some great information. So stick with us. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. You're watching the Expo Show.
When I think about my son, I think about his big heart, how kind he was, just being there for everybody. Look, I am your brother. We need to stop the conflict with all this violence. Let's come together as a people. If you know something, just tell somebody. Our lives do matter.
And welcome back to the Expo Show. I'm your host, Gregory Meriweather. We're here with Senator Greg Taylor, and we're talking about expungement. The reason we're having the show, we really want you to really pay attention to this. For you who may have loved ones who are incarcerated or maybe just coming out, we want you to make sure that you get this information and give this information to them, because it's necessary for them to know what it is that they can do when they return home. And we just want to make sure that we're doing our part in helping to heal the community. And so I just want to thank you, Senator Taylor, for stopping by and talking about this, man, because I think it's so important. So when we think about this, we were kind of offline and we were talking about just the ability to file a civil lawsuit. Can you explain more of that to me?
So under section 10 of the statute, again, it says a person whose record is expunged shall be treated as if the person has never been convicted of the offense. Now there's a however section that says any subsequent arrest or conviction may be considered for a habitual or anything like that. But by all means, an expungement means you have to be treated as if you've never been convicted. So if any person discriminates against you based on your expunged record, in other words, they know it's expunged, but they still say, well, you did that, right? So I'm going to hold it against you, commits a Class C infraction and may be held in contempt by court and issuing the order of expungement. And then any person who files for the petition for contempt of court, the person is entitled to injunctive relief. What that means is you have a lawyer that represents you, they pay for your fees. You have any detriment that you have, you know, for example, you had to take another job that pays less because you needed to get a job right now, you can sue them for that difference.
Wow.
You can sue them for any mental anguish. It's injunctive. There's a judicial decision and they can give you relief. Now, I always tell people, all you got to do is read the law, because it says that any person who's convicted of who have had the record expunged has to be treated as if they have never been convicted of the offense. So you're applying for a license, right? And that license says you can't have a drug conviction on your record, but you've had that expunged. And you get your application for your license back and it says, you have been denied because of this. And they have that record on there. Oh, you slam dunk.
Yeah. Major
Injunctive
violation.
relief. Please tell them they have to give me this license because I've had this removed. As a matter of fact, not only tell them they got to give me the license, but anybody, if I had to pay an attorney to bring this suit,
They need to pay for that.
they need to pay for that too.
There you have it. So when we talk about this and getting expunged, getting our records expunged, you got to get it all wiped out one time. So you can do this once.
One time in your life.
Okay.
So here's the rub, okay? You've got a conviction in Hamilton County, you got a conviction in Morgan County, right? So you're saying, all right, I did something bad here and I did something bad there, I got convicted of both. What do I do? Here's the deal. Within 365 days of each other, you have to file those petitions, right? So one you file on January 1st, 2018, you have to file the second one before January 1st, 2019.
Okay.
Those two petitions working simultaneously, having been getting expunged, that's it.
That's it.
You go out and commit a crime after January 1st, 2019,
Stays with
those two crimes come back
Oh, wow.
and can be used against you, but you get that 19 conviction and it goes forward and you can no longer apply for expungement again.
Okay.
We want people to understand that there should be an incentive. When you get out of jail, there should be an incentive to not only just do right, but we as lawmakers should understand that people make mistakes because we do it every day.
Absolutely.
Why shouldn't we give them a second chance to do this?
I agree.
Now, there might be an argument. I believe we should give them a second, third. You know, I'm kind of nice that way. But at least a second chance.
Second chance.
Because I know things happen in people's lives. You might have done something stupid at 18 that's affecting you when you're 35 and you got your life together.
Yes.
And it's just not fair that we would hold that against you.
Right. And
So-
I think that's the point we're really trying to make is
Yes.
that there are people who have made some mistakes as kids or in their
Yes.
younger years, and that for that thing to linger, and you are 40,
Right.
and all of a sudden you've had this 30-year span that you haven't had the ability to move forward. And I think that's the thing that kind of gets me is that you go in and they say you're paying your debt,
Yep.
and then you come out and you still have the same debt.
But you ain't never paid it off. Here's the typical situation. You got someone who works in let's say you work in a distribution facility. And while you're working there, you start working there at 19 years old, right? And, you go out and your boy's doing some things and somebody get caught with a roach in the car and they say, well, listen, you got a job. We don't want to hold you up from that. We're going to charge you with this felony. And then if you complete probation, you get a misdemeanor, right? So 5 years later, boss comes to you and said, Greg, you're doing a great job. I want to promote you. But you're going to have to go back through this application process.
Sure.
You're thinking, boy, I would love to have that raise. No, I'm just not ready for that right now. I'm not ready to go through that process right now. And your boss is like,
Why not?
Why not? I'm here trying to give you $5 an hour raise. I just don't want that responsibility. I got too many things going on. Blah, blah, blah. The reality is, you got convicted while you've been working there.
Right.
And if you go back through and you have to answer that question again, you would have to put positive.
Right.
What people don't know is when that comes up, all you got to do is get your record expunged and you never have to answer yes on that application.
So how does this impact us when, you come out, you've done your thing, you've gotten it expunged, or you've gotten it expunged, and then you're trying to get an apartment. You're trying to do all these things.
Not be
moving
used
forward.
against you. If they ever, and this is what I say, always get a response from them. Any application you send in, get it in writing, because that's the key. They put on your application for housing,
Right.
you've been convicted of a drug crime in 1985, you got them.
Yeah.
Break them.
So what's the process? So I do that. I get the paperwork. They've signed it. I bring it. How do I move forward at that point?
First of all, you need to get an attorney and explain to them exactly what happens. And say, listen, the statute clearly says that I can get injunctive relief. Injunctive relief includes your attorney fees.
Okay.
So can you go to court with me or file this injunctive relief in court? And then here's the document, here's the proof, and they file a petition for injunctive relief in court, putting a stay on that denial of your residency, and then it just comes down to how much did it damage you? Did you have to go to another apartment? Did you have to stay in a hotel for 2 or 3 weeks before you got to the injunctive relief? Sue them for it all.
Does this include school?
It includes anything. Anybody that takes this expunged, anybody.
Yeah.
Government as well.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying is this thing is clearing you up.
This is clear. I repeat, a person whose record has been expunged shall be treated as if the person had never been convicted of the offense. Isn't that pretty simple?
It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It seems theoretical. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is theory, but I really want to express to the people to make sure that you're getting this information, because what we're trying to do is make sure you know this, so as you proceed, you're able to get things in order, because this is, again, the second chance law is pretty much what it's called. So we just want to make sure you proceed.
Consult an attorney. Listen, I can tell everybody, I don't do this in my law practice, but let me tell you this. This is important enough that if you do anything and somebody says important to call an attorney, this is important enough for a life-changing event like this. You need to consult an attorney that understands the law, that can file your petition, that can get it done. And in most of these cases, you don't even go to court. They just grant it.
Right.
Because they have to. Why have a court hearing when you have to grant it?
Excellent. Well, Greg, I just want to say thank you, man, Senator, for coming through. I appreciate this. Make sure you check this out, get the information, move forward. We're doing our part here and trying to help better the community, because it's necessary for us to heal. Tune in next week. We'll be back again. You're watching The Expo Show. Have a great one.